It's almost bang on 5:30.
So
Like that.
5:30 p.m. Did you say?
Here we go. What's this gonna be?
So what were you doing just into the lead up of this podcast? Just
Working.
walk me through sort of what's
Okay,
happened in the past, I don't know, 15, 20, maybe an hour.
making me very nervous already.
Okay.
Um, I was working, and then I went upstairs, got a jug of water, and then I came back downstairs, had a small argument with Emma, came back downstairs, and then I set immediately up GarageBand and Skype.
Yeah. And no one, I don't know, like released any sort of noxious gases into the room. You didn't like physically injure yourself or hurt yourself in any way. It's just sort of been a normal day for you.
Yeah, it's been pretty normal. Why?
It's just you're coming across, I don't know, slightly more sensual, slightly more intelligent, slightly more trustworthy. I'm starting to look up to you a bit more. You've
What is
become
going on here?
a bit more of like a father figure, I suppose, in this podcast. And
What?
I'm just trying to work out why that might be.
What are you getting at?
Well, it just, I suppose,
What do you know?
a certain timbre in your speaking style, um, that's just lending a different kind of air to the podcast.
I don't like this one bit. I don't know what you're getting at. I don't know what you're doing. Is it you're going to make me guess, but by doing that, then I reveal too much. I know you've done this before. I'm not a goddamn fool. Been down this hole before. I'm not going again.
Michael, your voice is
I will.
about, I would say, a full octave lower than normal.
I don't understand this. Is it?
Your voice,
Yeah.
the audio of it, the wavelengths in
Yeah.
which it's transmitting, is one octave lower. Like you've done a voice pitching changer.
Are you serious?
I am 100% serious.
No way. How is that even possible?
I don't know. I don't know. What are you connecting through? Is this an actual accident or have you been fucking with me?
I have not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
This is
It is set up. It is set up exactly the same way.
I thought you were just holding the fort with like a stoic face of like, oh yeah, this is another silly thing I've done to start the podcast, and now just see how Nick reacts to it. Have you
Not at all.
legitimately not set your voice to be an octave lower?
I don't even know how you would do that. Like I would have to do it through GarageBand, but then through Skype.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the only way I can show you is by recording it and sending it back to you to prove. So I'm gonna have to
do it. Do
I'm
it.
gonna have to disconnect.
Okay. This is bizarre.
Say something.
Saying something so that I can hear my voice back. Apparently, it's lower.
Okay. I just texted it to you. Did you get it?
Saying something so that I can hear my voice back. Apparently, it's lower. Weird.
Oh, it's normal.
That's.
It's normal.
Oh, what?
That's so. Something was happening maybe through Skype. I don't know.
Oh.
Because when I disconnected my headphones and then put it back in again, and it was normal. Oh, I really hope the call
Weird.
recorder captured that in the dropped baritone version, because otherwise it's not going to really translate.
I sounded good.
You sounded
that.
good.
I guess you could always play the video that you just took.
Yes, it did. It did.
It did.
Yeah. Okay, I can put it in.
Weird.
Yeah, it's recorded it, and it's even more baritone than you'd believe.
Oh, you know what? You should just take it down a few notches. Just take
No, I'm
take
gonna
some
keep
creative
Au
liberties.
naturel is already very impressive. Man,
That's a fun way to start a podcast.
That's
though.
a fun-
in like a ransom voice. I wish I'd thought of that. Thanks, Skype.
yeah. Gosh, wow. Okay, how exciting! I genuinely thought you'd done a remarkable amount of like sonic looping to be able to like somehow get audio processed back through Skype so that I could hear it fucked up. But no, it was just
Well, it's kind
just
of.
computers doing shit.
I have been messing around a little bit with some plugins on GarageBand, just in another project file, but I thought maybe it could be that.
No, but it
then
stopped
also,
when I disconnected and reconnected. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why.
well, I'm glad my shrill, annoying, high-pitched
now-
voice is back.
Now I have to deal with the reality, which
told
is
me.
much less interesting.
Yes, sir. How you
How
been?
are you? Yeah, good.
New internet, by the way.
That was where I was going to lead off. I was shocked at how dramatically improved it has become. It is instantaneously noticeable how much better it is.
Yeah, shout out to Lee and Dave. It's actually
Dave.
Dave's modem, but I don't think Dave knows that I have it at the moment. But thank you. Yeah, it's made a huge difference. And we've still got the extender going, so that's bouncing up upstairs. Upstairs, the top floor is still a little, like maybe
3 floors up is a bit,
But in the study here on the second floor, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's the end of our shitty laggy issues that we've been suffering. Because
I'd like to think so.
It looks great.
It looks great. We're both in LD for the first time in a while, or ever, maybe.
I don't know that we overlapped. I don't think you were in lockdown when we were in lockdown, right?
We're both. Hey, high five,
you were
man.
kind of loose. Yeah. It's absolutely true. New Zealand has gone into level 4. That's the highest, hardest, top tier lockdown as of last Wednesday. So coming up on a week.
So you got
now.
a few more cases today as well.
Yeah, but that's normal because we had Delta community spread before level 4 kicked in. So they're still expecting that 2-week sort of case incidences to climb. So we haven't quite hit that peak yet. It's not a huge surprise that there's more. There'll still be more for a few more days. It'll be sort of to the end of the week that I think people would be hoping that they start to drop again.
And are you guys doing the no takeaways thing again?
It is the most intense. Yeah, it is. Everything is shut except for.
So it's harsher than what we've had here.
Yes, I think so. Everything is shut except for supermarkets, medical clinics, like some essential services like laundromats if you need to clean your clothes and that sort of stuff. But that's it. There are no restaurants open. There's no takeaways open. There's no cafes. There's no businesses that are going in outside of literally the most essential. So everyone is in their homes and that's it. You can exercise. So there aren't limits on travel distances. You can go outside. But masks have now become mandatory for the first time, which they didn't do last time. Masks are mandatory in public spaces. So anywhere that like indoor public spaces, so anything like supermarkets and medical clinics and stuff is now legally required. That was not the case previously.
But not outdoor.
But not outdoors. There is a 2-meter social distancing requirement, so you have to avoid people, but they're not mandating masks. So that's
Isn't
where
it interesting that how the whole world's got COVID, but everyone seems to be kind of doing it differently. There's no textbook on this thing, and even within Australia and New Zealand, you guys don't have takeaways, but you can still wear a mask outside, and you don't have a kilometer limit on how far you can go to exercise.
Yeah,
but we have 5 kilometers. It's all we're just guessing, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's I think similar scientific understandings around the world. The question is a political one, whether you've got a Gladys situation and she's like, well, I don't want to shut anything down. I know what the science says, but I'm not going to do it. That's true of the different interpretations around the place. But also you have different geographic realities. Melbourne is a densely populated CBD area. There's not really a super equivalent.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe Auckland is the most that way, where it is a city with people living in it. But in Christchurch, there's not that many people proportionally who actually live in the city. There's a city area which is entertainment and shops and retail and food and that sort of stuff, but accommodation tends to be out in the suburbs. So those kind of geographical differences also affect, I think, the way that they implement those kind of mandates, because it has to reflect the reality of what life is here, not what life is in Los Angeles or whatever.
Sure. And so when are you due to come out?
So the current one is the next update will be on Friday. So it's scheduled to be midnight Friday, 11:59 Friday is when it's currently scheduled to go down, but it's all dependent on caseloads. So I wouldn't be surprised if they stick it out another weekend. That said, there hasn't been any South Island cases yet. There have been cases in the North Island, but not the South Island. So there's maybe 50-50 odds of us dropping down to level 3 in the North
the islands are separated by a body of water.
Correct.
In New Zealand?
Yeah, that's almost the definition of islands, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just like separate countries. Yeah. But like,
I mean, there's one area. Country, but how Tasmania is part of Australia.
So it is all one country.
It's one country.
Okay.
It's not like New and Zealand, and it's like two differently named places that are together. It's one place.
Yeah. No, okay. But it's two separate islands.
Yeah, two separate islands. There's no land bridge.
Physically.
There's no sort of underwater tubing system. Human-sized, at least.
It's like India and Sri Lanka.
Yeah, they're like different spaces surrounded by wet.
In the ocean.
Yeah.
I get it. I think I understand New Zealand.
Maybe you have to come and have a look for yourself. I don't know if this is maybe I'm not communicating it properly, but like they're what islands mean. That is what this is.
I'll look it up. I'll look at videos.
So it's possible that we'll drop down to level 3 is what I'm getting at, but we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, well, cases are still on the rise here.
Fucking Gladys.
Look like.
Oh. Yeah. I got some beef.
Oh, let me eat that beef.
I'm not.
Give me the beef. Give me the beef.
Give me the
Where
beef.
Is it? Imagine if that were the lyrics. Give me the beef. I'm gonna free my soul. I wanna get boon in a hot dog roll.
It's very good. Is there?
Thank you.
Gladys has fucked it.
Yeah.
Gladys has fucked it for everyone, and
including New Zealand.
We caught this case from New South Wales, and yes, it escaped from our quarantine, but it was fucking Delta. There were.
You can't really play that blame game though, can you? You can't go play the blame game that far back. I mean, it's gonna come into New Zealand one way or another.
But it hadn't. Delta had been in so many other places to date, and we hadn't had any breaches.
Was there no Delta whatsoever?
We didn't have any, community cases at all. Well, so there were managed isolation cases that were coming through, and some of them were Delta, I believe. But they never got anywhere. It was all contained.
Well, what was the difference between this?
Volume, I think. Number of people coming.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe it's a stretch. But it's very frustrating to be working really hard here at elimination, right? Like that's the stated New Zealand goal, and I think it's one that we'll hopefully get back to. But then just across the pond have a state and a premier who just throw up their hands and been like, well, we can't ever get rid of it. We're just going to have to live with it. And it's like, well, you're only in that place because you didn't fucking do anything for 2 months. And if you'd started with a harder, more aggressive attack, when it first appeared, then maybe you could have fucking eliminated it. It's such a Boris Johnson-y move to be like, well, idle, sit on my dick, and then wait for it to get completely out of hand, and the pathway that you didn't want to take is now no longer viable, so you just get to go for the shitty alternative, I found it very disheartening.
Yeah. It's tricky as well with those places like New Zealand and like some states in Australia that have lived fairly COVID free for the majority of the pandemic, like South Australia, Western Australia, the whole of New Zealand. And then when you're hit, I'm sure the compliance is pretty good there, but you get kind of like people are used to not wearing masks, even though, New South Wales and Victoria, we've been, everyone has learnt the behaviors and the discipline to wear the mask and to be socially distant all the time and all those things. And then in these other places, when you kind of you get a case and you have to go into lockdown, it must be like a huge shock, and everyone has to quickly adjust to what Victoria and New South Wales are already doing.
Yeah.
Is the compliance pretty good there?
I think compliance has been pretty good. They've been announcing police numbers on that sort of stuff. Like, I think one day it was like there were 50 warnings issued and maybe 10 non-compliance notices written or something. Like, I'm making up those numbers, but they're in that ballpark. Sure. Like, they were pretty low for the entire country.
Freedom rallies?
There was a rally, but I don't think that it... I think the media here did a fairly decent job of not really paying attention to it, if you know what I mean. They seem to be on side with the government's elimination strategy and with the sensible sort of scientific approach to it. And I think it got some coverage, but it wasn't paraded in front of people. And I think that helps to I mean, it's controlling the narrative, right? It's keeping everyone on the same side. The theme here, as it was last time, is the team of 5 million, which is this kind of clever political line, but also a sort of warm and fuzzy unifying statement, right? It's like, we're in this together. There's one federal government. Not embraces. What's the word I'm looking for? Embodies and covers the entire island. Encompasses, that's what I'm looking for. It encompasses both islands, separated by water, and it does a job of unifying everyone under the same sort of rules. And we've all been in level 4. And I won't dwell on the details too much because it's just, it is what it is. But there was an Auckland-based outbreak. And then before it was caught, before the first case was identified, a lot of young people were exposed to it, and they went around in bars and restaurants in town and that sort of stuff. And there were a significant number of close contacts. And then all of those close contacts went all over New Zealand. So that's why the entire thing shut down, because they expected and later confirmed that close contacts had appeared. There was a map, like literally with dots all over New Zealand. And so they went hard like they did last time. They went early and they shut everyone down at the highest level simultaneously. And to loop back to my point here, it does have a community spirit sense to it when you feel like everyone's in the same position, playing by the same rules, being treated relatively fairly, and we're all in this together. That team of 5 million thing does seem to resonate with people here. And I think people appreciate the lifestyle they had with an elimination strategy and want to get back to it.
Right. Yeah, so they still need to remember that the reason, like, it's kind of being grateful. Yeah, it's like a proactive gratefulness thing that you're doing, because you need to remember it's so easy to slip back into life pre-COVID, but then I can imagine you might just think, well, you just take it for granted. Yeah. So you kind of just have to, I guess it's on the news everywhere, so you're constantly reminded that other parts of the world are not.
Yeah, it's easy to disassociate that stuff, though. Like the one of the other mandatory things that they brought in, which hadn't been mandatory previously, was sign in at every public space, like a supermarket or a GP or something like that. You have to either scan the QR code or sign a ledger, and that'll be now mandatory for businesses to officiate. It'll be a legal requirement on them. So they'll have to stick someone at the door and make sure every person that visits has to sign it, because they did know that in the sort of the lull where everyone was a bit complacent, only 10% of people were scanning places as they went in. And now that's jumped back up again, obviously. But I think they want people to be more consistent with it because it helps so much with the contact tracing.
And I don't know if you want to continue this after the intro, but like you're fully vaxxed now, is that correct?
That's incorrect. Welcome to Deep Forward, everybody. My name is Nick, and this is a podcast that I do with my friend Michael. He sits in a different place, in a different room, across the world in a town called Melbourne, but together, through the miracles of technology, we can have a conversation for you. Michael, do you have anything to say?
No, I never have anything to say.
Well, you complained once that you didn't get a chance to say anything.
Now I'm complaining again.
And I'm Nick. Hi. Hey, everybody. Hello. I am not fully vaccinated. I have had one jab, though.
But you had your jab over 3 weeks ago, didn't you?
Coming up on 3 weeks this week. So the rollout here has been slowish. I think we're now at around 20% of the population had at least one jab or fully vaxxed. The staggering the age brackets for eligibility, and for the general population, 30 plus, the decade of the 30s and older, becomes available for COVID bookings from tomorrow. So I think that there will be a big surge for those filling up, and then I think for 20s is the week later, the September 4th or whatever that is, September 3rd. So in the next 2 weeks, the demographics for bookings will be opened up much wider to basically everyone. And they've also approved it for kids 12 to 15 now. So if you're going to get a jab, you can bring your kid along as well.
Why has the vaccine rollout in New Zealand been so slow? Is it because you're poor? Or
no, it's part of it is the complacency, I think, where there was this kind of perhaps naive expectation that if we could hold our borders long enough, everyone else in the world would get their shit together and the vaccines could go to the places that it was rampant and we could just get it when it was, accessible. What I think wasn't properly accounted for was the Delta variants and that kind of stuff, and also the places that would not ever successfully get it under control. So then we did, I think, have to actively ramp up to try and get it out. And they did recently change it so that it's now, instead of a 3-week gap, it's now officially a 6-week gap between our Pfizer jabs. That's based on a little bit of the science saying that it's a slightly better immune response with a bit of a longer gap between doses, but it's also freeing up some of those jabs to go to people who haven't had their first yet, rather than giving 2 to someone, So it's providing a little bit more of a broader community immunization sooner, and that's just a reallocation.
And how's the media treatment of Jacinda going? Is she getting taken to? It's still good.
It's pretty good. She's a very good communicator. You can go on IMDb and find the 1 p.m. presser, because every day they do a 1 p.m. COVID press release, and there's all these like positive reviews about like this season of the 1 p.m. presser is like taking some turns, and Delta introduction was a little bit outlandish, but the characters are still great, the performances are interesting, so like I think there's a good humor about it all, and of course there will be detractors, but
that's the thing. It's like everyone has, like, because you've got the New South Wales presser here and the Victorian one, like it has become like a TV show, and you're getting so much information that is so like directly pertinent to your immediate life that it becomes, I have legitimately like gotten addicted to the news over the course of this pandemic. Like I'm being 100% serious. Like I have become addicted to Twitter, who I just use Twitter just to follow journalists, Australian journalists, who are getting tip-offs from the government and then tweeting about it before the presser. So I just I want to be the first one to know.
Yeah.
And then I've got the ABC News 24 thing going, like the whole, since as soon as I wake up, this is every day, and my housemate can attest to this. I wake up.
Your girlfriend's been demoted to housemate. That's how intense the fight was.
She insists on it now. I've been demoted. I wake up. I get the ABC News live stream app on my phone. I place it like this on the sink next to the shower, and I'm ready to go. And then it doesn't switch off until about 6 p.m.
Wow. You're having a 12-hour straight news binge.
Straight.
Wow.
It's it's a genuine addiction.
At least it's ABC and not, Sky News or something.
Oh, well, yeah, ABC it is just the same shit though. It is just they just recycle all day. If something new comes up, then they pop it in there. So it is pointless, but I'm almost afraid to miss out on anything immediately, even though the things, you're never going to just walk out on a Saturday morning and be like, where is everyone?
You would find out essential knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is an addiction, but yeah.
And is that completely localized, or are you finding your interests are extending globally now? Have you been addicted to the Afghanistan, scandals, or are you still only seeing it through this lens of okay, this is my COVID life, this is my lockdown life, that's what I'm fixated on?
I think it is mostly COVID related, but it is just watching the 24-hour news. It is good to pick up the other stuff that is coming in. I hear, Afghanistan is going through some tricky times at the moment.
Yeah. What was I? Oh yeah. So the interesting, just to jump back one step slightly, the interesting thing that you alluded to, I think, because I'd mentioned it earlier, was the Pfizer gaps between the doses. I had actually preemptively decided, because when I first booked, somehow I got an early access code, and I don't really know why, but possibly because I had an asthma as a kid or something like that.
They just send you a code.
So this was the previous form of rollout, where there were these groups, and if you were in group 1, you were 65 plus or a frontline worker group. Group 1 was frontline workers. Group 2 was 65 plus. Group 3 was medical conditions and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I got a text during group 3 when I was okay, I'm not over 65 and I don't have any medical conditions, but I'm not gonna complain here, and so I booked a appointment, and at that time the advice was to book a second one 3 weeks later. So I booked those 2 in, and went along for my first jab, and it all went well. And if you're interested in hearing about my panic attack stuff, go watch the Instagram clip that we put up last week, because we did talk about it. But after that point, there was some coverage about the potential benefits of waiting on that second jab. And I had described it, I think, to you in that clip before it all went into lockdown, that the calculus in a longer gap between jabs is, on the pro side, you got a slightly better immune response by some studies. And on the con side, if you are still exposed to COVID, you're not completely immunized. So that longer gap means a longer time before you can actually defend against that virus, get the full benefits of it. So at the time, the decision of, I'll push it back a bit was easy, because there was no community cases of COVID. Well, cut to a few weeks later, and there were. But I'd actually gone ahead and pushed that back to 5 weeks anyway. And now everyone that's booking is booking at a 6-week mandatory, even though there is now the Delta outbreak in the North Island. But they basically threw open the floodgates in Auckland, where there'd been this breakout, and said, anyone, any age, come in and get a jab. So they have topically applied that kind of broader accessibility to places where it mattered. But for everyone else, it'll be first jabs basically coming up this week, or a ability to book a first jab coming up this week.
Okay. And when is your second?
It'll be 2 more weeks, another fortnight.
Okay, well, we'll be fully vaccinated around the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm mid-September, I think.
Yeah, nice. So how has your lockdown been? You've got a fairly confident routine and dynamic now with the work stuff and with the home stuff. Like, you know what you're doing. It's just same old.
So that side's good. I am on the second day of I'm going to take a month off drinking.
Okay.
So I just thought that when lockdown 5 happened, I just impulsive, like I wasn't drinking too much. Then lockdown 5 happened and I went out and got a couple of bottles of wine. And, I was kind of like, it was that feeling of like, fuck it, and then we got out of that lockdown, and then a week later we got
back
into another lockdown, like literally the next week.
Yeah.
And then I basically I think throughout that time I had kind of like increased the amount that I was drinking. And then throughout this current lockdown, which was meant to be for 2 weeks and then was extended for another 2 weeks. So we are now in the third week, I believe, of a 4-week lockdown, which has been extended. I'm just like pounding booze. So I decided that it'd be fun as an experiment. First of all, it'd be just something to do, like genuinely.
Wait, is it something to do to not do something?
Yeah. It's like
I'm doing this thing at the moment. I'm not having something, and every now and then I just catch myself not drinking, and I think, yeah, I'm having a great time doing this.
Yeah, I'm also not being a vegan.
That's been true for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do genuinely think it's like something to do, and like, kind of been invested in this MyFitnessPal food tracking thing, which you told me about. And, I've got my caloric goals every day, and I'm smashing them. Every day.
Is that as in you're going above what you've set yourself, or you're crushing, hitting what you're trying to get?
Yeah, that wasn't
I'm
clear.
smashing them. I'm getting thousands of calories more than what I set.
I'm under every day, but I'm not including the booze.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And when you do scan in like a beer or something like that, it's an eye opener when you're like, oh god, that's solid calories.
It's a real shock to the system is when you go to search for white wine on there, and it's like, a glass, and you're like, do you have a bottle?
Where's the bottles?
Bottle section.
Yeah.
And then you have to enter 2 bottles. That's when
it's gonna add a little bit to your totes.
It is. It's a lot of calories, and so yeah. I wanted to, I thought if we get extended for another 2 weeks or a month or so, then by the time I come out, maybe we'll be open and I can actually go to the pub. But yeah, that's the other thing. I wanted to like try and, I'm seeing you over here getting more shredded every fortnight, getting bulkier, sending me gym selfies and you doing handstands and shit. And I'm like, what am I going to be, the fat guy on the podcast? Like that's no life for me. I'm not going to be the fucking fat guy. I'm the dumb guy, okay?
And those are mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So, so I'm just gonna see how that goes. I've done like a month off drinking before.
Yeah, and you responded so positively to it as well. You were like, I'm sleeping better, my shits are stronger, like everything was coming up peaches. Yeah,
and I kept eating peaches. I couldn't stop eating peaches. But I'm hoping to get like a positive feedback loop, like of, not drinking, waking up a little fresher, which encourages or makes it easier to go out and exercise and read, and that in turns makes you sleep better. And if I can just get in one of those, I reckon. Just getting out of the cycle of just pounding a bottle of wine, every night, just because it's the pandemic. I'm like, well, it
Nothing
doesn't actually make
matters.
logical sense that, like, because we have to stay in our homes more. I guess it kind of does. Maybe I should start drinking again. But it doesn't make... It's like this impulse to be like, we're locking down, and it's like, let's, fuck it.
It's like, it's a hibernation thing almost, right? Like you're nesting, and you're like enclosed in a space, and you load up on food, and then I'm going to just sort of like hibernate, right? So I think that's where some of that impulse come from, right? Like
Maybe. I think it comes from more of a place for me of like
boredom.
It's like chaos. Yeah. So there's like this chaotic element to it where, everyone's in this together, kind of the mood on the street changes. I know when like they announced at a 4 p.m. presser, they announced that we're going into lockdown tonight. And then the kind of mood, there's like an urgency before the lockdown sets in. And then everyone's kind of like angry and disappointed and stuff. And I think it creates this like energy that channels through me into like, wanting to, it might be a soothing thing. Like I might be like,
well, like alcohol is
a
depressant, right? Like it's
but
is it a
people use
stimulant?
it to soothe themselves. No, it's a depressant.
Yeah. So it's like something to numb the feelings a little bit, isn't it? Like it's an outlet.
Exactly. I think it does numb the feeling, and I think that's probably why I was drinking a lot.
Where's your other vices at? Are you still not smoking, or mostly not smoking?
Well, that's the other thing. Like I had kind of like picked it up again, but only when I was drinking.
Sure.
And it's not like I'm certainly not chain smoking. It's like if I'm drinking, maybe I'll have 1 or 2 cigarettes, but yeah, that's the other habit that is directly linked to alcohol.
Yeah, right.
So maybe I can kick that. But that's another thing. It's like you're literally sucking on a tit. Like it's like it is like that, and you're taking a deep breath. Like there is it's like this soothing thing where it's like trying to rock yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't literally, but metaphorically.
There's like a Freudian. I think there's some Freudian thing that.
But Freud's been debunked, right?
Well, he was a cokehead apparently.
Really? Oh, I suppose everyone
had
was back then.
A little snuff box.
Yeah.
Those were the days, man. When you could just walk into your psychologist's office and he'd just be like, "What's up?
What do you want?
Seat.
What do you want? Sit down. Stand up. I'll be. What are you feeling? What do you want?
Now it's just teenagers at festivals.
How far we've fallen. On the self-improvement train. I've been.
Choo-choo.
It's not even, there wasn't even like there wasn't a self-improvement related pun to it. Like you didn't try and take a swing at what a self-improvement train.
I just took the train.
You just took the train part.
Took the train part.
And you're like, what sound does a train make? That's where I'll focus on it.
That's how we do it. All aboard.
Yeah. You could have gone for like a you. Like make it about. It doesn't matter. I have recently been. So I've had migraines for like 20 years, and I have recently been on this kind of strengthening kick with the gym stuff because I had a knee-related issue that had come up when I was running, and basically been in a process of trying to sort that out for well over a year now, and had seen some progress obviously with the gym, but not been able to crack the knee stuff with the physio. But in that process of paying attention to my body and re-examining things that I'd accepted were just kind of how it was, and with a bit of encouragement from KC, went to a migraine specialist, to a headache clinic, to try and just get the lie of the land on where migraines and so the scientific understanding for all that stuff now sits, and to know whether there was anything they might be able to do about it. And so I've had, I think now, 4 sessions over the past must be a month now. And it has been truly transformative. It has been an amazing improvement.
What do they do?
So when I first got diagnosed, it was when I was in year 7, and I'd woken up in the middle of the night. How old does that make me? Maybe like 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. Screaming, and also like talking gibberish, like
what?
Like words were not forming, and my parents were concerned and worried, and they were like, "Come on, we've got to take you to the doctor. This is late at night." And they're like, "Put your shoes on." And I went to go find my shoes and socks, and I was like looking in the wrong places in the room, like I didn't know where I was spatially, and like
disoriented,
and like looking in the wrong drawers and things, and couldn't tie my laces and all that kind of stuff.
And cuckoo.
Yeah, and like that's how it fucks with your brain. Sometimes. So that was called a confusional migraine, and that was the first external, like visible episode. Yeah. And they don't diagnose a migraine till you've had a few of them, or at least they didn't at the time. But then I continued to have the headaches and things, and that has persisted for the past 20 years. Including the more annoying part for me, which is not so much the headaches, but the auras, which is a visual disturbance that like floats in front of your vision, and distorts, and as it goes tunnel vision, I get sort of flickering, jagged lightning bolts that sort of course across my. It's horrible. And the best treatment I have for them, after going through a few different pills and that sort of stuff, was just painkillers, but also just going to bed and trying to sleep through it. And then preventatively, I had noticed that it seemed to be tightness in shoulders that would trigger them, and neck related stuff. Oh. And a GP a few years ago had said, go and get massages regularly, like often. They'd sit it every fortnight. I sort of do it every month. Because I'm not made of money, but loosen up those neck muscles, and that seemed to help a little bit. So in the past maybe 5 years, I've got into an uneasy truce with them, where when they hit, they're not too bad, but there's still a persistent variable that can just appear in my life at any time. So that was sort of the status quo, and that was based on old diagnoses and the GP's expectations from way back when. So, cut to this clinic, and I go in, and it's like an hour-long appointment. It was fucking expensive. And sit down.
How expensive?
It was like $300 or something for an hour. Not covered by my health insurance. And and I was like, okay, well, let's just see where we're at. What's new. And they asked me all these questions, like, how does it feel? Where does the pain come? What do you experience? Blah, blah, blah. What are you expecting? What do you want? And I was basically like, look, I want an update. I want to know where we're at in the science of this. And, I'd like to minimize the auras, because I find them really disturbing and distracting. And not disturbing in a way that I'm like seeing horrific imagery, just like it's very disruptive. And so they had a look, and basically the current understanding of migraines is now it's all about the brainstem, and 95% of all headaches come from the neck and the shoulders.
All headaches,
all migraines all tend to come 95% of the time from your neck and the brainstem at the base of your neck. And basically,
it's a dumb question, but like
Yeah.
even like hangover headaches and or is that like dehydration? Is it like another
Dehydration
thing?
probably causes it, but here's my understanding. We can try and guess whether it's hangovers afterwards. So the brainstem is like an information tube, and all the nerves from the body, all the information that your limbs and organs and everything have, gets sent up through the brainstem to your brain. Your brain doesn't actually have any nerve endings. So when you feel a headache, you're not actually feeling literally at that site anything. That's referred pain. So there's no nerve endings in your head when you have a headache. That's being transferred, referred from a pain in your neck for the most part, right? So,
Whoa.
So yeah, if you
Does that mean the pain is technically in your neck?
Correct, 100%. Here's a fact that they told me. This is you'll like this one. When they do brain surgery, when someone cuts open your head, right, for whatever medical purpose, they will numb the skin
to make you not gay again. Yeah,
they tried it. It didn't work. They will numb the skin, but they will not inject anything or numb the brain at all because the brain doesn't feel anything. The brain doesn't have nerve endings. So
wow.
You can carve into your head and that'll cut the skin. That'll hurt. But when you jab something into the brain, nothing. It doesn't feel anything. There's no nerves there. Isn't that wild?
I wonder why evolution decided that. Like, why did it decide that the brain didn't need any?
I think there was too much else going on, or it's protected, so it wasn't biologically necessary to know that it's being hit by something. Or
I guess like if you're in a position where your brain's being touched, historically you've been fucked.
Yeah.
It's been like, well,
Yeah.
At this point,
that's
really gonna.
It's not gonna solve the problem. Yeah.
No one's touching your brain, and then you're going, "Oh, who's doing that?
Shit. Get your thumb out of there,
shit.
Gary.
My brain's exposed to the elements."
Cold today. The point being that it all comes through your neck, and there's a lot of information that goes through there. And if the muscles in your neck and your shoulders are very tight or tense or constricting on the brainstem, it'll get to a point where it's like hypersensitive or vulnerable. And then one more little trigger, which for some people is weather, for some people is temperature, something they've eaten. Maybe this is where the hangover or dehydration information stuff comes into. One more piece of information basically overloads the brainstem, and then it shoots off all this like warning signals into your brain and goes, hey, fuck. And that's what a headache is. So in a migraine context, it was all about the neck and shoulder tension, and she basically had a look and discovered that some of my vertebrae were misaligned and that they were not actually sitting straight. And so all of that tension was the neck muscles trying to accommodate vertebrae that weren't in the right position. She has been in a process of using just her thumbs, just the gentle pressure on her thumbs, just to push like a vertebrae slightly back into alignment, right? And then reinforcing that new position with some postural changes and simple exercises. So I've been on this process.
So this is a permanent a permanent fix?
So this is the thing, right? Yeah. So after the end of this first consult, she was like, okay, yeah, I think we can stop you having headaches. And I was like, what?
What?
Completely. I've been having these for 20 years. And she was just like, I think we can resolve this. Like,
oh my God.
I didn't want to get too excited, right? Like I was just like, I'd prefer to be cautious than naive, right? But it has
You were
been...
like, whoa!
She's like, no, don't do that.
Oh, sorry. That's how I express my happiness. Just completely undo all of her vertebrate work.
Yeah. But yeah, so she's put it into place, and I've returned, I think, 3 days later the first time, then a week later, and now 2 weeks later, and the staggering
every time
it a
for
little
$300 a pop.
No, it's 150 for follow-ups, but it's still like I'm dropping some dough on this shit. But at the same time, like if I can spend $1,000 and then never have migraines again, I'm like, fucking take my money.
It's a good investment.
So she's been putting it into place, and then I've been doing like strengthening exercises on the neck and everything to sort of keep the muscles holding the vertebrae in the new position, and sitting in like an incredibly upright posture, like sleeping differently so that it doesn't come out of position when I'm asleep, doing these exercises multiple times a day. But it has been like significant progress, and I feel better. And it's been now 7 weeks since I've had a migraine, and normally I was on like a monthly schedule. So this is like really significant.
That's huge.
Yeah. So the craziest one as well. Have you ever had dry needling?
No, I don't know what that is.
Have you ever had acupuncture?
No.
So acupuncture is like very tiny little needles, and they just put it in the skin level, right? They just leave it there, and then your body kind of releases tension, right? Dry needling is that same concept, but you keep going and you push. You hit the muscle underneath the skin, and you find knots or muscles in the wrong positions, and you're literally kind of breaking it with a needle so that it snaps or disappears there and reforms, ideally, if you're doing the correct exercises, into the position it should be. So this is something I first encountered last year when they were trying to fix my knee. I had muscles in all kinds of weird places compensating for stuff. So they would do some dry needling at the physio there. And that was quite successful, but a little bit disconcerting. Because their goal is often to find muscles that are very tight, very tense, because they're in the wrong place or straining or pulling the wrong thing, and then like snap it so that it releases and readjusts your body position.
And this is like proper medicine.
Yeah, this
my
is at the
understanding of
physio.
acupuncture was like kind of like
Totally.
it's like
yeah. I was a little bit
Chinese
like
medicine or something.
I don't know what's the scientific basis for all this.
Yeah.
But the logic of it was explained to me, as I sort of explained it then, as you getting the muscles that have been compensating or in the wrong position, holding things incorrectly, out of the way, and then strengthening everything up so that it's correct. And that sort of makes a logical sense to me. You do want to make sure you're with a reputable physio, I'm sure. But the headache woman also did it as well. And I had famously tight shoulders, like tight traps. And
I heard about those. They made a movie about those.
They did, yeah. What was it called?
It was called
The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, that's you gotta know your physiology to get that reference. Does everyone know what traps are? I don't think.
I think people know what traps.
We don't need to go there.
Anyway, just Google
Matt Damon.
Man.
Matt Damon played your neck muscle. He was fantastic.
The point being that that had been something that I'd been able to correlate between having a migraine when my shoulders and my neck and stuff were really tight, so that correlated with my previous experiences and understanding of how it worked. And so she said about trying to dry needle my shoulders, my trap muscles, and release some of the tension that was pulling on my neck to, again, try and minimize the chance that brainstem is going to be overloaded with tension and information and cause a migraine. Yeah. And fuck if it wasn't the most like uncomfortable, unpleasant, but super satisfying experience, because it is significant, like, discomfort.
It hurts a little.
It hurt. Like these things were so fucking tight. It was like, you know how in a monster movie when Godzilla walks through the Golden Gate Bridge and like a suspension cable snaps, it's like pew, you know, like whips through cars and just like slices through buses and things. Like that was the sensation of, I had like these tendons, right, like strung out so taut and like tingling, like trembling with the amount of tension in my shoulders. And then she went in with these needles and she'd like jab at it, and then it would just like, bah, and it would pop.
And what did that feel like
it was literally like a loosening, but also pain, because it was like this tight, tense muscle suddenly snapping, like an elastic band snapping.
Why do you have so much tension?
I don't know, like historical deformity. Like I broke my collarbone as a kid. Maybe it just grew weirdly since then. It could have been early days of sitting at a desk or postural stuff, which I'd tried to improve but never been able to get properly sorted. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
Daddy issues?
Daddy issues. They said that was one of the big ones. But, like, I literally had bruises on my back the next day. Like, you could see significant, like, bruises where this has all happened. And after it was all done, like, I happened to have my Pfizer jab on my left arm, my dry needling on my shoulders. I had mouth ulcers. I'd been for a run and I'd done like a leg day or something like that. And I was just sitting here like this, being like, my entire body hurts. Everything hurts. And I'm not allowed to sit on a couch anymore because of the posture. And my arm's sore. And I have to sleep funny. And my neck's sore and I'm bruised. And I was just like miserable. And she said, tonight you're going to feel like you got hit by a truck. And then in 2 days you'll thank me. And sure enough, 2 days later, once the, initial overwhelming soreness had dissipated, my shoulders legitimately had dropped like 1 or 2 centimeters on each side. Like they actually sit physically lower now than they did before they needed it.
So from where to where?
It was sort of like up here, and now they're like legit lower. Because the muscles were released. But yeah, so anyway, this has been a sort of narcissistic ramble for a while, but it's just so exciting to be in a position where like plausibly this long, like ongoing medical condition could like magically now not, I shouldn't say magic, but like suddenly not be an issue that I have to deal with because of the improved understanding of science and the causes of migraines.
Yeah, my mum has her whole life also suffered from migraines, and she like to the point where like she was a primary school teacher, and she multiple times threw up on kids.
Yeah.
Like threw up on children.
Yeah.
And it would just be like part of our, like, looking back on how we like didn't appreciate how the suffering that mum was going through back then makes me feel kind of sad for her. And also hearing, like, talking to you and hearing about your migraines, it's like it's so easy to like kind of palm it off as like, oh well, I've had a headache. Like, yeah. I've had a headache, so it's got to be like just a bad headache. But yeah, she would frequently come home from works because she was too unwell from migraines to work, and she would throw up on little children.
Yeah,
I can just imagine, like in year 4 class.
Yeah, and they're
your
screaming.
Teacher just throws up on you. And she would, I just had this memory. I haven't thought about this in a while. She would have a bucket in the class.
Yeah.
And sometimes when she felt it coming on, she would tell her students to go get the bucket. Go get Mrs. Z's bucket. She didn't call it a bucket. Go get Mrs. Z's
bucket.
And go get Mrs. Z's bucket, and don't you dare fuck it.
Yeah. That's awful, but it's also like very familiar. I'm not someone who
throw up?
Not always. In fact, I would say rarely, but definitely has happened where it just this overwhelming nausea and you're like, oh, I need to get it out. And weirdly, you often felt better after throwing up. I don't know what biologically the cause for that was, but you should. I'll have to, because there's a.
Yeah, if you, I will definitely pass this on to my mum.
There's a name of.
Maybe I could get it for her for Christmas or something.
Yeah, or you could just tell her and she could do it herself now rather than wait 4 months and let her throw up 3 more times.
She won't do it. She won't do it. She's like this of the generation, and or I don't know if it's a generational thing or a cultural thing, whether she's just like it's more important to her to suck it up and be like soldier on, which is dumb.
So it is the Watson approach. The Watson Headache Institute found this sort of connection, I think, with vertebrae and that sort of thing, and their approach is this sort of gentle thumb pressure to realign the spine. It's not like a chiro. They're not like cricking, like doing any kind of aggressive movements. Yep. It's like literally just a pressure on the neck. The Watson
headache approach.
Yeah,
cool.
And yeah, I came into it not really knowing. Well, we'll just see what happens, and it has been really positive. And the other thing, which is amazing, sorry to keep going on about this, the other really cool thing is I have always been reactive to a migraine. It has always been, okay, well, it's coming up on a few weeks, and I'm just waiting, and like my shoulders are getting a bit tense, but my massage isn't until next week, so we'll see what happens. And then when it hits, it's like, okay, I'll take my painkillers now, and then I guess I'll just go to bed. And that was it. That was my treatment strategy. I'd had some other pills. I didn't really like how they felt the day after, like a more aggressive sort of
painkiller?
Not painkiller. It's like a
blocker or something.
Yeah, it's like a blocker. The triptans are the type of drug, and I think they're like a blocker of some of that nerve signal, so that the brainstem doesn't overload. But then the next day you're feeling like kind of fuzzy because it's literally numbed your receptors, right? So I didn't really like those, and that was my strategy. Was like, well, it'll just randomly come, and I literally would travel anywhere with my bag, because my bag, and anyone who knows me, closely enough will know that I just come anywhere. It doesn't matter whether we're getting a coffee or catching up at a friend's house. I have my bag with me because my bag has got my migraine kit in it, and it's got all the various meds that I might want and painkillers and that sort of thing. And one of the great things about this has been I've had preventative techniques, but also symptomatic techniques. Like when I am feeling a headache come on, I now have an actual stretch or exercise that I can do to cut it off, to prevent it from even happening. Like, if you're feeling this coming on, here's what you do. I've never had that kind of control over it, where I can be on it and have something proactive to do when I feel like susceptible to it, and potentially to stop it from happening at all. Like, that's in itself, even if I still get migraines, even having those techniques is really like a big step forward. So yeah, I'm just very excited about it all.
Yeah, it must be like weird just having this thing that that can just, it's kind of like what you said last week on that little clip where you're like you're told after you get the shot to just like monitor for symptoms, and you're kind of like looking out for like, oh, am I going to get like a blood clot or something? Like, that's been like kind of your life. You're just like, am I going to get am I going to get a debilitating migraine at any point? That would be
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the entire cause of like the anxieties that's been prevalent in my life, but it's certainly one of those factors. Like, if you're primed for the possibility that at any moment something could go wrong, and you might have to walk out of this meeting, or stop filming the episode, or you can't do the thing that people are relying on, you can't meet people for the coffee or whatever, then it does prime you a little bit for that sort of anxiety and that that internalization of like, what am I feeling? What's happening? Is that coming on? What can I see? It does sort of keep you in that mindset.
If this gets cured for you, do you reckon you feel like your identity's wrapped up in it somewhat? You'll be like, I used to be the migraine guy, and now I'm not.
I think I just won't tell people it's cured, and then I'll use it as a great excuse. Sorry.
But with really bad acting.
Sorry. I could only be here for 40 minutes at your party, but I've got a migraine, and I guess I just have to go home and sleep or something. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to be here for your toga party, but gosh, it just
Nick,
happens sometimes.
Why don't you just take your
I
pills?
left
You
my
brought your
pills in
backpack. You never leave it.
No, they got wet. Someone dumped some punch on it.
What were they? How were you keeping your pills?
They were
got
loose.
wet?
They were just loose in the bottom of my bag. Like, for speed, I cracked them out of the foil, just so that I didn't have to worry about, like, in the moment, that finger pressure getting it through. So I just keep them loose.
Well, that was smart to
And
a
they're
degree
lint covered
for the speed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it does mean they're now water susceptible.
yeah, yeah.
Well, if you've been stuck in a rut and you need something to lift your mood, then may I recommend the Deep Thought podcast. There are plenty of episodes in our back catalogue, and I'm sure that each and every one of them momentarily can bring a smile to your face. So check it out at deepthought.podbean.com. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. That I will repeat again, as we've alluded to. There was an exclusive bonus clip on Instagram this week. We couldn't fit it in the last week's episode. We threw it up there, so give it a watch. It's only 5 minutes, but there's bonus content there. Check out our SoundCloud. Send in your questions, comments, and concerns to deepthought@gmail.com. And just be nice humans out there. Everyone's going through stuff, and you don't know what that is, so just try and be kind.
I had a weird thought the other day that it might be dumb, but like, have you ever thought that, how, okay, so we're out there looking for other life on other planets, but maybe what if there's like a civilization or another species of something that's microscopic, and that like the universe to us, like galaxies seem so big that maybe we are microscopic to something else, and the galaxies look really small. Is that dumb?
No, I think that's plausible. That's the we call that the Men in Black theorem, where if you zoom out far enough, everything's just in a water droplet on some other random planet.
That makes sense, like to a degree, like that there's more than the universe in that sense. Like there's more, that the universe is like, we're just like microscopic little, what are those gross little microscopic, is they called tollards or something?
Tollards? Tardigrades?
Tardigrades.
Okay.
Maybe we're tardigrades to something else out there in the universe.
What did you call me? You're saying I look like a little moss pig. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we all are. We all are.
Disgusting.
Those things are fucked up, gross.
They got cute little snouts, though. I'll give them that.
Isn't that weird that also that like other animals, like we look at like, I don't know, what's a gross fucking animal? Even the tardigrades, they are looking at each other and going, "Oh, that's all right." Like, there's attractive.
Do we know how do tardigrades breed? Do they breed? Do they split?
They probably. I don't know. They usually
just okay. Can you Google for me now?
Dates.
Can you Google for me now? Tardigrade fuck.
Tardigrade. How do you spell it?
TARDI. Grade.
My Google Chrome's been an absolute douche today.
Google Chrome is shit. You need to use a different browser.
Tardigrade. Fuck. Reddit. What the fuck? Tardigrades.
Well, I mean, you can't really complain, can you?
I don't think I'm going to find any scientific information with that type of search, Nick. Anyway, this is not my point. My point was that there are gross fucking animals out there, but to themselves, they think that each other are attractive, which is funny. And they look at us and they think, you're gross.
What I mean? Yeah, sorry, I was reading about tardigrades for sex. They can be both sexual and asexual in nature. Normally, they have both female and male reproductive organs, and they reproduce sexually. However, some species don't have male reproductive organs and can be asexual. So there are they undergo parthenogenesis. The females will lay eggs and they just develop without any need of fertilization. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
There's your science
If you're
fact.
that fucking disgusting, either don't have sex or grow both reproductive parts so you can have sex with yourself. I mean, that's
Some words to live by.
that's
there.
why there is a God.
Some good advice. Some good advice there from Michael. You got a seggy for me, Michael? It's been a Nick-heavy show, and I'm ready to hear you talk.
I've got a weird news that I've been trying to plug for the last few weeks that I think we could do. It's not as timely, but I think it's pretty fucking astonishing. This weird news. It's pretty fucking. I even say it's pretty weird.
Okay, I can't wait. Let's do it.
All right.
Oh, and I'm gonna end. I know how we're gonna end. Well, I don't know how we're gonna end. I've also got something to say about eggs, so it's up to you.
All right. How? I mean, it's quite an ominous shadowing there, Nick.
Yeah. So it's up to
I
you.
think we all want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, stay tuned.
Is it a rant?
It's not a rant. I would go so far as to call it a tip. I got some egg related advice. What can I say? That's all I'm saying.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay, let me whip through this.
No. I want to savor this weird news.
Okay, but don't forget the egg thing.
I think we can't now.
All right, play the weird news jingle now.
When?
Okay.
Sorry.
Nick. Oh, I was trying to be cool. You know
Okay.
how we do it cool.
Sorry, I forgot. Okay, just set me up again.
No. I'm not
Now.
In the news today from the Strange and Weird Fact File.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs.
Deputies
That's
to
what I
say
thought
the
anyway.
suspect told them he's been performing sex acts on animals since the
Tonight I told about
1970s.
my close encounter with the Yeti. Total truth.
A sticky situation at an airport in Tennessee after baggage was sprayed with rust.
Turns out the government had been taking them seriously all along.
This is Deep Fault Weird News with Michael Zubarevkala Sludge.
You're a control freak. All right, so this comes from South America, this weird news.
Okay.
Now, most weird news has been kind of, well, let's say factually shaky and also based either, decades old. This is from July, so this is only a month old. This is fresh weird, and it comes to us from... And it's real. Okay? So...
I like that you've retroactively thrown your previous stories under the bus there. You didn't do them any service by suddenly declaring that just because they're not true, they somehow less valid.
I thought it was all part of the fun.
Okay.
But this one's real. Okay? So this was a terrifying weird news where a woman... had a mid-air heart attack while bungee jumping and died. But here's the thing. She jumped without a cord. And let me tell you why.
What?
Did you hear about this?
No, I haven't heard any of these. This is all fresh.
This is incredible, this story. Okay, so I'm just going to read the article.
Please.
Okay, a bungee jumper who plummeted about 50 meters to her death is believed to have died of a heart attack mid-air after realizing she wasn't attached to the bungee cord. Funny that she said after realizing. Oh, I guess that's why she had a heart attack.
You have a heart attack.
So Colombian lawyer, let's just call her Miss Gomez because I can't pronounce that, tragically died when she followed the wrong signal to jump.
So this was over rock. This wasn't over water. This wasn't over a river. This was like straight into a gorge.
There's a photo here of it, and yeah, it's a gorge. Hold on, should I send it to you so you can follow along?
I think we know what a gorge is.
You know what a gorge is?
It's like an upside down island.
So it's interesting this article has led with the fact that this was a heart attack because it's not the most interesting part about this story. And medical report now suggests the woman's cause of death was not the fall. According to the report, the young woman suffered a heart attack during the fall and was dead before she hit the ground. The tragedy happened during Miss Gomez's first bungee jump with her boyfriend in the province of Toquia, Colombia. According to the footage taken by onlookers, there's footage of this, the bungee instructor yelled to Miss Gomez's boyfriend to jump now. But Miss Gomez appears to have thought the instruction was for her, panicked, and jumped without a cord. She wasn't even hooked up.
Oh.
So the instructor has gone to the boyfriend, jump now. She's just gone, ah! And jumped off.
Oh, that's so sad.
Really sad. Should be called sad news too. We can do that as a segment. Her boyfriend immediately rushed to her side and tried to perform CPR, but she was already dead. Yeah. So this is a quote from someone that was there. The signal was for the boyfriend to jump because he was already attached to the security equipment. They had only put the harness on her, so she got confused and rushed. That's weird news, guys, for this week. How sad and like scary is that?
But imagine knowing, like, so something had to have happened, right, in midair, where she's like either facing up and sees there's no cord, or realized after she jumped, like, oh fuck, they didn't mean me. Or maybe like people are screaming after her or something, and she's like, oh shit. And it is so traumatic that you have a heart attack in midair. Like, you can't have been falling for that long either. Like, fuck.
50 meters. That's 2 seconds.
50 meters maybe? Is not that tall. That's a little. It has to be more than 50 meters, surely.
Well, let's just say 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Shit. And I reckon it's like hearing people just going, what the fuck are you doing? And then also realizing yourself, you're like, oh, I've just done like a very knee-jerky, impulsive thing here, and
yeah, that's it.
Whoops.
That's the end.
Yeah.
Look. If you had to choose, okay, I don't want to ask that question.
I want you to ask it.
I was going to say, if you'd rather die of a heart attack or of an impact. There's no good answers, is there?
I think, I mean, maybe the heart attack will distract. I don't know. I mean, the idea.
Maybe both is better than one or the other.
If the heart attack like makes you unconscious, then you probably want that.
Yeah.
But I always like, do you do this? I always like imagine, even if I'm just like walking down the street, I like, sometimes my brain just imagines something horrific happening.
Yeah.
Like I'll imagine
not like
tripping on a curb. This is what I imagined the other day. This is pretty graphic. It didn't happen.
Okay.
But I imagined, I was just like, this is during the day. I imagined tripping on the curb and there was like, and I imagined like, and then I was like, would my brain like...
My God. We need to put like a warning at the head of this segment. Jesus Christ. I wasn't emotionally prepared and I was part of this.
Well, that was just in my brain. Like, that, it's not my fault.
Yeah. No.
It is my fault for telling you on a podcast.
Yeah.
Give us the egg thing. Let's bring it back.
This is okay. You know, maybe this was genius. Maybe this got people to stay through a really unpleasant, sad, weird news segment. Maybe they're clinging on to the hope that my egg advice is going to be worth it. It's going to lift the mood up again. But you've given me a very hard segue.
Let's do the hardest segue ever.
This is going to be so underwhelming. So I have
egg news.
So this is a new segment I'm calling Nick's Eggy Advice. And
this is a segment.
You
haven't gone with an egg pun. You've avoided all egg puns,
I don't like
of which there are thousands.
I'm a little bit traumatized. I think my pun center is distracted. There's something kind of nice about an egg-related segment which has no pun. I think it's a mature, a grown-ups podcast segment.
Yeah.
But this is an all ages advice. So feel free to tell children if they're interested. Just don't let them start the podcast too early.
I love that you put a warning at the start of this.
Yeah.
Feel free to tell all children.
Okay, so I just have one little I suppose you call it a life hack. A little bit of egg related information which I've recently discovered and which I think is a significant improvement on my day-to-day life. It relates to eggs and the way that you get the good bits out of the shell. Michael, how do you crack an egg?
I crack it just on the table.
Fuck.
What? Is that the tip? That's not the tip. Are you serious? No, it's not.
My so I've been a bowl cracker for a long time, Michael. I like a rim. Yeah, I would go to the edge of a implement, crack it, and inevitably you get some shell. You get some shell in.
Oh yeah.
It's quite an aggressive, like a vertical.
Yeah.
It just goes everywhere. You get some of it.
Also spillage.
You lose some on the outside. Did you know that if you just hit it on a table, like a flat surface, just like a gentle but confident tap on a flat, and then take that semi-broken egg over to your dish and you put those thumbs in it and you split it yourself, you'll find a perfect pour. No shell penetrating. Just give it a little bit of a table slap and you get that juicy egg goodness into your bowl without any shell.
I think this is a good tip, even though I guessed it and I'm, clearly light years ahead of you in terms of egg cooking. But also, here's just to add on to that, even if on the off chance you do get a little shell in there, the best way to get the bits of shell out is Don't
say it.
The shell
that
you have cracked. It's true. It's
not true.
It is
Everyone
true.
always says that. It doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't work for you because you got egg issues
crapping.
Clearly.
I'm rib crapping. But
you're not very excellent at it. How do you like your eggs? Do you like a scrambled, a boiled, runny, yolk, fried? How do you like them?
I like a scramble. I like a poached. Don't go fried too often, but every now and then.
Do you go boiled?
Nah, I'm not a boiled egg.
I'm a huge boiled egg.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You're
a huge boiled egg.
Hard boiled egg.
Hard. Not even semi.
Sometimes semi.
How hard?
But sometimes mostly hard.
Mostly semi.
I like it when it gets the little grey bits, and I know that means it's overcooked.
We're still talking about eggs, yeah?
Oh yeah, I guess. Whatever.